I'd built up enough options for myself, money-wise, credit score-wise. You know, I'd already moved by myself before to a different apartment in the desert. So it wasn't like I was scared to move to this new apartment, even though it was like moving for the first time alone 3,000 miles away. Like before I'd moved alone, but it was like just moving from a different town, but I moved originally 3,000 miles with my friend. And so this time right now was like a little bit more like scary because I'd never like removed myself 3,000 miles away all on my own. Like that meant I had to pack up my apartment and figure out all the details of living in a new state without ever setting foot in that state or that city that I would live in. So I had like maybe 5 or 6 months of time where all I did was move backwards from the end date of that lease, where I was super unhappy, to how to get an apartment in a new city, in a different part of the country where I thought I could be more happy. So how did I do that? So basically all I did was I understood about myself that if the place that I lived in, like my city, was kind of not great, at least if my apartment was good, like I was super happy with that, and it was like nice because I spent a lot of time in my environment. I work from home, and I value having a nice kind of place, and I value having a nice calming setup where like home is like my reset. I'm very introverted, and I'm very like I can be extroverted when I want to be, but it takes like a lot. And so like my home is like really my like grounding point of coming back and like having a safe spot, and just feeling good. And like feeling good equals like I cook again, I sing again in the shower, I'm like, you know, happy about life, I wake up really nice because I've slept really great. Like all those things are really important to me. And so I knew that if I screwed up picking where I wanted to live, that it wouldn't, oh my god, I don't know if you heard that. It sounded like somebody like fell down upstairs. I live not on the bottom floor anymore. So I knew that if I screwed up where I wanted to live, like my city and my outside environments, like in a 5-mile radius, if that sucked, at least I had like where I lived to be okay. Anyway, so all I did was I searched apartments.com, and I searched like what my budget was, and I was like, oh, I don't really want to have like a million different places that my inventory is for my business. I used to have storage at my other place where I had 2 storage areas that I rented from them, and so that I wouldn't live with my work, so that my work could kind of stop. But it wasn't really a full cutoff because my work mostly lived in my living room and dining room area, and I moved it after I'd processed it and put it up online to sell into my storage. And so it was kind of separated, but not really. But it also was like sort of kind of climate controlled because the place that I lived was like dry heat. It wasn't horrible, and so like being outside in a storage wasn't the end of the world for my inventory. It didn't like damage it, destroy it. So I knew if I wanted to move anywhere across to the East Coast, it was going to be more humid than the desert, the dry heat. And so I just tried to find the best price that I could for the nicest apartment that I could get with the amenities that I wanted. Like I looked at my top choices first and tried for them. So I didn't just go for like what I could actually afford and like the bottom level of what I could afford to save money. That probably would have been smarter, but that's not what I did. So I just picked everything that really made me happy. I wanted a dishwasher, I wanted a washer and dryer in my unit, and not have to like go downstairs to like this washer and dryer place, because I'd already done that when I was in college. Like, you know, I'm kind of like past that. I don't really want to downgrade my life. I want to keep it the same level that I was at, but like a little bit better. So the reason why I'm describing like the whole storage thing was because I was looking for a 2-bedroom instead of a 1-bedroom. And so what I learned was you have to tell the world what you want, because they're not gonna like really guess. And so you have to go after what you want. And so previously I would have been like, well, let's see what I can afford at the lowest price of like 1 bedroom and see. No, I started my search at what exactly I wanted, and then once I exhausted my options of what I wanted in the area or the state that I picked, maybe that state wasn't good and like I'd pick a different one. But for whatever reason, the state that I randomly picked that I thought was going to be great, just because I thought the cost of living in this state was cheaper than the cost of living where I was, but it was also big enough city that I could still do my business, which is the reason why I can't live where I want to live, which is my home state. My home state is too small and the cost of living is very high, and those two combined equals really bad. I would pay the same amount that I pay for here. I pay $1,700 for a 2-bedroom apartment here. In my home state, I could pay that and I could get something pretty decent, but it would cost a lot more when I would first move in. In my home state, they would charge first month, last month, and security, and so it was literally like almost $6,000 that you have to plunk over to them. So that's how they do it. They don't have like big complexes where it's a little bit more affordable to move in, and like how they have like move-in specials, like all this stuff. And then the cost of living is really high, but like the business opportunity is not there. And so if you were curious, why don't I just move back home? That's not really what I wanted to do. I wanted to expand my horizons a little bit and then move to where I thought that I could thrive but still be happier. So I picked some place where I thought that there was water, because in the desert there's no water, and I really miss that. I really miss the green. I'm from a place where it's like super green trees, and like, you know, I grew up with like, you know, everything at my disposal as far as lakes, and like you can drive 2 hours to the ocean and it's like just amazing, beautiful. And there's 4 seasons, and it's just like, that makes me really happy because that's what I grew up with. That's what I find normal. For me, walking on like this concrete sidewalk path to like just see like some trees that were planted by like the road or whatever, and then like the trees are like dying because there's not enough water there, that's so uninspiring, and I hate that. And I learned that I hate that because I left my original environment. I didn't really know how cool where I grew up was until I left it. And so now I'm just trying to backtrack, finding like a cool place that kind of is sort of like that, but allows me to live and like do my business. So anyways, long-winded always. But I really wanted to like describe to you like what my priorities were and why I chose the certain things that I chose, and like the way in which I made my decisions. And it's like not perfect, right? And so if I can really explain how I made my choices, you can see like my errors of my ways, and then you can kind of correct them. If you're just like listening to this in the background, you'd be like, oh, I can do that better. I'm sure you can, but I'm not trying to say that the way that I did it is the only way that you can do it, but this is what I did. So I'm trying to be as thorough as possible in case you were, you know, wondering the nitty-gritties of like actually how you do this. So I literally just picked my top stuff that I would be happy with, and I searched for it within my budget, and I went online and I looked at the places once the options popped up on apartments.com, and then I was like a bloodhound and I like sunk my teeth into like the leasing office of those places, because you know, if you just go by what they say the first time, you're never gonna get in. So what I did was I went to the website of this current complex that I live in, and they said that there was no apartments within my time frame because it was a little bit too far out. I had 6 months of, you know, move time, and like most of the time they're making leases happen like a couple of months beforehand because people have moved out, they've already signed or not signed their renewal, and like the stuff happens not in major time. Like it doesn't you can't find an apartment a year ahead of time. That doesn't work. So 6 months ahead of time is even kind of like pushing it. So like 4 months ahead of time, I was like, hey, when is the turnover for my period of move-in time for you guys at your place. And she said that there was nothing available for what I wanted currently in a 1-bedroom, because I was originally going to rent a garage for like $170, $75 a month, because I knew that I was going to have to get a car if I moved here. It's not walkable, and I knew that, and so I was just okay with it. And so the amount of rent for the first for the 1-bedroom apartment plus the garage actually equaled the amount of rent that it would cost for a 2-bedroom apartment here. And so then I actually had more options. So I told this person via the chat or whatever, like that this was my original thought, and they were like, well, we don't have any of that stuff. And so I actually had to call them. And so they're like, well, we don't have anything right now, but I'll put you on this waiting list for like a 2-bedroom if that pops up. I was like, great. And so I'm like waiting like a week, being kind of like trying not to pester them, but like really wanting to like lock this in. And because once I locked in my apartment, I could do all the other tasks that needed to happen in order to move across the country. So like if I don't know where I'm moving to, I can't really like get my U-Haul and like, you know, have the address to where it's gonna go next and blah blah blah. So I like really pestered her. I was like, look, I'm not trying to be like up your ass or anything. I don't think I said it like that, but I'm not trying to be up your ass or anything, but like this is really important for me, and because I'm moving from out of state, like I kind of need this to be solidified. And I'm like really motivated to like sign the lease and give you all your money that you need to get, and in order to like make this happen. Like money is not a problem, like the whole problem is just like finding a place to live. So I made it really apparent that like I was super interested, and I followed up like a lot, and I called. Like people ignore emails, they ignore emails here all the time, but people ignore emails. You have to be like way more like go-getter than that. You have to like call them. And so I think I talked to like literally everyone in this office. There's like 3 people that work here in the leasing office, and I would call them and be like, hey, is there an update? I'm looking for a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom, you know, what do you have? Blah blah blah. And then one day she literally just called me, like maybe a week after I was like fed up with it, and going to go on to my next second choice of where I found to live, and she was like, hey, there's a 2-bedroom apartment. I was like, great. And I thought like everything was kind of good, like we decided to like move forward with that. But I don't think I was very clear in my response email, and so like nothing happened with it after I said great. Like, you know, nothing really happened as far as like moving forward, signing the lease, getting the DocuSign stuff, like doing all this you know, thing to like really commit myself to it financially and legally. So I was confused because I was like, hey, I said I was interested. Why is nothing happening? So I think I sent one more email, and I was like, can I please commit to this? And I like made my intention super known that I was ready to like give them money for this particular apartment that they found that was open, because the next person, the person that lived here, wasn't gonna re-sign their lease, and it had opened. So sorry, that was my alarm for watching my favorite podcast on how to do better for my business. It happens at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday, and so it's 12:30. So I wanted to set my alarm for, you know, being able to catch it live. So anyways, maybe I should just hurry up. I'm sorry, I'm like so long-winded because I feel like everything needs to be kind of like spelled out, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe I'm just kind of like over-explaining, but I'm really trying to like fill in the cracks for anybody who's like very, very curious how exactly you do this. So if I could say anything, determination and very clear intentions, and being willing to like this whole place I don't think is very competitive. It's not like moving to like New York City where you have to find a broker in order to just look at apartments, and then you have to have that huge sum of money or whatever. It's much more low-key than that. But just to get them to be like serious in you as a person that wants to live in this place, you kind of have to be more like aggressive instead of just like hoping that it's going to happen. That doesn't really work in this environment. So because I'm sure that they just have a ton of people that come here in person and take tours and like blah 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 blah. If you really want to have something happen, you actually have to take the correct level of action in order to make that happen, is what I'm trying to say. So because I was remote, I couldn't like come in and talk to them in the office, so it was easier to like dodge me, and it's easier to dodge emails, like I said. And so that is how I got the ball rolling. So once I had my my lease signed, and then I had my my deposit mailed out to them, and I had my first month's rent, the prorated first month's rent mailed out to them, I felt better about like it was, you know, secure. And at least for like 12 months of my life, I would have a place that I knew was kind of just good if the pictures online were actually for real. And the way that I looked to see if the pictures online were for real is that I looked up Instagram, the location of this complex, and I looked up the places that people had tagged as this location, and I could see what like people actually, like the people that lived here would actually post, and it matched the website. And because I've gone to like places to look at in the desert when I was trying to find my old apartment, and like the places online did not match at all what they were advertising as. And so it's like actually pretty hard to do that remotely, but there are a few like ways that you can kind of like be an internet detective and kind of like look. So you can also look and see what people say on Facebook, but I don't have Facebook, I'm not into that. So anyways, there's like this whole big thing that you can do in order to like back test if what your place is actually what it's going to be, and then commit. But I was like fully committed. I just wanted to like make decisions and get the ball rolling. So in order to then get my things, I had to think business strategy wise, and I knew that as things were coming, as my move out date was coming, I needed to lower the amount of inventory that I had. And so I had fire sales with my inventory. I think I had like 800 or 900 pieces of items that I myself was selling. And that's like too much to move, especially if it's not high dollar value items. And so the cost to move it is not worth it. And so I had to do something with it. And so I tried to have a business decision where for like the 3 months out, I would try to make the most amount of money with the most amount of things, and then discount some stuff, and then eventually pick the things that I would send to a company for me to sell, or send to a consignor for me to sell, that would eventually, if it didn't sell, would end up back with me at my new place, and I would save on shipping that way. And so there's all these moving pieces because I had a business, but I had enough time in order to sort that out. And I had enough time in order to sort that out because I stopped everything else in my life. I like really honed in on like what I was doing with this, and I still screwed it up, honestly. So I screwed it up by it was a summer slowdown. Summer is usually a very slow time for my business because people are outside. They're not like buying stuff online. They're like enjoying themselves, especially after the pandemic. And especially since there's like economic troubles right now. And so it's like a double whammy. And so the whole move, if I was ever gonna move, like I'm glad that I did it during the downtime, but it's like hard to like start that back up again, because after all like my calculations, like I don't know if I calculated the correct way in order to move with all my stuff. And the reason I say that is because, without explaining too much, basically I had a bigger store, and now I have a very, very small concentrated store of the stuff that I either found here since I've been here for like a month and something, or I've like mailed to myself, or that my dad has mailed to me, or that was from my old store. So it's very small. And so the way that things work is like the more stuff that you have, the more money you make. And so it's starting very slow, and I kind of like ruined my business because there's not the momentum of the bigger store. if that makes any sense to anybody that doesn't know what I'm really talking about. But so like I tried my best to calculate the best of, you know, I was only going to spend a certain amount of moving my stuff, because I knew the whole time when I had my 3 years of being in the desert that I was going to move. And so I didn't purchase bigger things that I couldn't move by myself. I didn't purchase a couch this whole entire time. So this whole entire time, my apartment wasn't cozy. It was basically a workplace. I had like my table and I had my stools to sit on, but I didn't have like a cozy place to just kind of chill and watch TV. I don't even have a TV. And I don't have a TV because I just don't watch TV. That's not really what my life does. But like there's no kind of chill place. It's just always kind of very focused on the goals. And so when it came to move, I had a lot of stuff that I wanted to bring, because I knew that like replacing all the stuff was going to be pretty costly, and I really enjoyed my stuff. And another thing about not getting rid of all your stuff when you move is that if you can afford to like bring it with you, it's kind of like a stabilizing thing. So it's kind of jarring for me to be in a new environment, into a new place, and like just everything is fresh and a start over. But it's like kind of comforting when I have my own things and I don't have to spend time going to like curate my apartment because I've already brought it with me. So we'd already done the calculation of what it would take to bring all the things that I wanted with me and my business. And so the cheapest, I looked at all these different ways in which you could do it. I was going to rent a car and then attach a little trailer and drive like a little U-Haul trailer across the country. But rentals don't really allow you to have an attachment, and to have that little U-Haul attachment to the car would actually be more money than if I just had a pod. And so I looked into U-Haul as a company, I looked into pods.com as a company. And so like once I had my start lease day of my new place, I just worked backwards. And the further out that you can book these services, like the better price that you'll get. And especially since if you're moving during a peak time of moving, which is June and July. So I 3 months in advance, I think, was able to get my U-Haul pod. So I literally did like an Excel of like the different ways in which I could do it, like driving a U-Haul truck big enough to like take all my things. But then there's the cost of staying overnight in a hotel, because it's a pretty big drive. It would be like over a 24-hour period of driving. And so that's usually broken up into at least 3 days. So then you'd have the cost of 2 hotels, and then the cost of gas for all that, and then the like anxiety of driving a car bigger than what I would normally drive. And it's really uncomfortable to drive a big U-Haul truck that you can't see out of the back. There's like no rear view mirror because like you can't see, there's like no windshield in the back. So like for me, that's like uncomfortable to drive this like big thing, and the gas for that. And so it was actually just cheaper to pay U-Haul to have a little pod. They only have like one size, I think, and it was pretty small. And so that was giving me anxiety that I'd have to downsize even more for my inventory. And so I really, before I actually saw what could fit into it, like the day that they delivered it, I'd done really well with paring things down. I got rid of my mattress and I had a new one bought on Amazon, delivered to me the day that it arrived, like I arrived. And so I had all this time to plan all these things to like happen smoothly. So that was great. But so it actually just cost, I think, $1,500 or $1,200. I kind of forget. It was like $1,500 or $1,200 for me to move my 1-bedroom apartment and my inventory for my business that I was keeping to my new apartment 3,000 miles away. And I thought that was a pretty good deal. And so because it was such a good deal, I was like, it's out of my hands, it's wiped clean. After a certain point in time, my apartment will be basically empty and I'll just have to live in it with my things not there. and live in it as if I'm squatting in my apartment for like 2 weeks. And the reason why is because the travel time for the pod. Since the advantage of driving with your stuff is that you can have everything in your apartment kind of packed up, but like you can have like your necessities or whatever until the day that you leave. And that means I could have kept my bed, I could have done all these things, because like the last day that I was there would be my last day to like put everything in the truck and then drive away. But because there's like a travel time, this pod had to be delivered 2 weeks before the my move out date of my old apartment, and then there's travel time to deliver it to my other apartment, because I think they wait for enough for the load of the semi truck or whatever that has these pods on it, in order to have enough people like having their pods go to the same location. They don't just like drive my pod like to this location that like is a waste of gas if they can like wait and like shove a whole bunch of others that are like being delivered to my area, to my general vicinity. And it makes more sense for their business to do it that way, because so there's like a travel time period. And so I didn't know that when I first got the pod, and so I realized very quickly that I had to change the dates on like when it was delivered so that it would just go smoothly. So I had to backtrack it in order for me to have my things at this new apartment relatively quickly. I wasn't gonna wait 2 weeks for my things to come. There had to be some sort of like push or pull from one end to the other, and it was just easier for me if I lived without my things in this old apartment, because I was already making all these sacrifices anyways, and it already kind of sucked. And it's better to clean your apartment when there's not much stuff in it anyways, and it was just an easier, more chill way to move out if I just had like all of my bigger things and all of my inventory kind of just gone. And so like the last week or 2 weeks that I was there, the majority, 90% of my belongings were just not there anymore, and all I had left was like the things that I was donating at the very last day, that I was selling still, and the things that I was taking on the plane with me, and the things that I was getting rid of. So everything else was just gone, and so like the whole move out was just easier for me to like handle if I was gonna handle it, because I was just one person. So that's the way that I did it. I chose to have no things to live with 2 weeks before, instead of having it come, instead of having the pod be delivered a couple of days before my move out date there, and then waiting on this end for my stuff. I just thought that was better because I was already used to sacrificing anyways. And the way that I did it allowed me to have about a week and a half's worth of time to just like not really run my business anymore, because the majority of my things were gone. And so that allowed me to have this pocket of time that I could get my wisdom teeth out. And I knew I had enough money on my dental plan for the calendar year to do that. And like I'd put it off for like my whole life because I was scared. And I was scared right up until like they pulled the last one out. Scared after. So I didn't really want to do it, but I knew that this was the only time in my life that it actually made sense, where I didn't really have much to do because my business was kind of on vacation mode for that point. It was just like a weird pocket of time, and I would have felt guilty had I not taken advantage of that. And so it was miserable. I had my teeth out and it was miserable and I hated it, and I kind of still like regret pulling the top teeth, but the bottom teeth I don't regret, because they were, you know, they were impacted and they were getting kind of not great. So it was good, a better quality of life decision, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, but it was miserable. It was hard and it was uncomfortable and it sucked, and it was really sad, because I like had to recover and you know, live on my floor because I'd like basically put all of my stuff in the pod and it was already gone. So I didn't have a bed frame anymore. I had to like sleep. There's this corner of my room that looks like this because most rooms have a corner, and so I pushed my bed into the corner and I propped up my pillows in this corner right here so that I could sleep sitting up so that my mouth could heal. And I did that on the floor for like, I don't know, the first 3 or 4 days that after my teeth were taken out. And the recovery time of like someone who's almost 40 with their wisdom teeth getting taken out is like way different than like a teenager when you're, you know, probably normally supposed to get your wisdom teeth out. That's pretty normal to have that happen then, especially around the time that you get your braces and everything. So my teeth had lived in my head for a lot longer than those people. And so when I was Googling online, is this normal? Is this normal? Like the recovery time was basically from the perspective of somebody who was way younger and whose teeth were not as implanted into their jawbones as mine. Like the day that my dentist took my teeth out, he actually wanted to like show me because my teeth were so big. He's like, he told like the nurse or whatever, the person, the assistant, he was like, after she kind of like comes to, because I wasn't put under, I paid to have laughing gas, and it like did nothing for my like problems as far as being scared. It like basically took my anxiety down from like a level 1000 to like a 99.9. So I didn't want to see the giant teeth that he took out, and so like that's how big I guess they were. And so anyways, my recovery process was not fun, but it was in that window of time to like do that stuff, and I felt good about like doing everything because it was in such a controlled manner that I'd already thought things through. Because I had so much time to do it. Like not everybody's gonna do it that way, obviously, and so like my move across the country was pretty smooth. The day that I left, I stayed in my apartment up until like I needed to leave for the airport, and then I took a red eye to here, and actually took a red eye to Boston, and then from Boston I flew here, and I didn't get any sleep obviously, but like the adrenaline of like moving to a new place, like starting your new life and like having everything happen was like keeping me kind of like alive. And so it was like excitement, but it's also like I was still recovering from my wisdom teeth, and I was still just kind of just tired from moving all my stuff on my own. And I had orchestrated getting a car, and so I'd planned and I scheduled a test drive of a car when I first landed. So like I packed everything here, and I left some things to not work out, but I tried to cover my bases if things did. So what I mean by that is I'd already rented a car for 1 day, I think, and I had arranged for the car to be picked up by me at the airport, and so I didn't have to rely on anybody else like an Uber or anything in order to make my appointment at the car place, the car dealership. And so I didn't want anything to screw that up. I just wanted to be able to drive myself. And so I also wanted to be able to drive myself around in order to get some groceries for my place, just in case the grocery delivery wasn't available in my new town. I didn't know, because like you normally only know that when you're there. And so just in case that didn't happen, I needed a way in order to, you know, get some food and to like buy myself some more time. And buying myself some more time, I thought about that for my business. And the last couple of days after my teeth had healed enough, the last 3 or 4 days that I was in the desert, all I did was go to this place that I normally get inventory. I was there for like almost the whole day. I would get a whole bunch of stuff and I would mail it back to myself. And I would arrange it so that it would arrive basically a little bit after I first got here. And so that way, if I couldn't get a car, and I couldn't leave, I could at least still make money by listing the things that I had mailed to myself from the old place. So I was trying to cover my bases as far as like my basic needs, like food and stuff, if I was like landlocked in my apartment without a car, if the whole car situation didn't work out. But I tried to minimize the amount of financial suck, because if it did work out, I wouldn't need the rental car for the full week. And if it didn't work out, then I had enough food in order to like get a new plan, and I had enough inventory to get a new plan in order to buy myself maybe a week of being landlocked here and, you know, figuring out what to do. So I only had the rental car for one day, and so I didn't cover my bases and have the rental car for the full day, because getting your money back once you've prepaid from a rental place is like really difficult, and I knew that. So I tried to like limit the amount of financial burden that this rental car had, but also kind of like put all of my eggs into like this basket of the car that I was going to test drive that morning once I came off the plane. I was putting a lot of faith that this car was going to be good, and I was going to buy it, and it was going to work out, and everything was just good. So before I even left, I was pre-qualified for the amount that the car was. I had arranged insurance from an insurance company to fully insure me for a month, just in case I didn't buy that car. I could just call them up and be like, hey, that didn't work out. But during the time that I test drove it, I would have insurance. And so like I'd pre-arranged all these things with like my downtime, and I tried to make the best use of my time. But I was really just hoping that my due diligence and my research on what I was getting myself into was gonna also work out on this other end. And thankfully it did. So I got off the plane and I got my rental car super smooth, and I went to Target to get some groceries and some necessities of just like, you know, the things that I needed that I didn't move with. But I knew that my stuff was going to come in 2 days, so I didn't get too much. Like my belongings, it was going to come in the pod. That was when it was going to arrive. If you don't know, like the whole pod thing, it goes to like a bigger city, and then you have to pay. You can go get your pod yourself and not pay, but since I didn't really have any way of going to get it, it was 30 minutes away that the tractor trailer put the pod in this bigger location. And then to deliver it to like the small towns, you have a few other options, and that's why I liked U-Haul, because you can kind of customize where you have the advantage and where you don't. If I had a truck and a trailer, I could save the money with them and not pay to have it delivered the full way. I could just pay to have it delivered to the main hub in like the state that I live in, and then I could go get it and you know, save on that cost myself, and then re-deliver it to them. But for me, I had to pay to have it dropped off, pay to have it moved, paid to have it dropped off to me, and then paid to have it come pick back up. So that all of those fees were the $1,500 or $1,200 or whatever. I thought that was pretty reasonable for how many things I was having them do, and it was just very convenient. So anyways, the only bad thing about that was so the car. So I first got off the plane and I got to go get my stuff, and then I arrived a little bit early to the dealership and I test drove it. It was great, and it went really smoothly after that. So I was adding more tools to my life like immediately. I had a 2-bedroom apartment, and so now that I was living in a humid place, that my stuff could live with me inside my 2-bedroom apartment, and it reduced the amount of like problems that would happen for like the quality of my stuff, but also it would allow me to have a place that I could just have work be and then close the door. But it also allowed me to just be a lot better, because there wasn't a risk of it being stolen as much, because my whole rental insurance was my whole entire apartment, and previously the rental insurance would not cover the storage especially if it was storage containing stuff for a business. It didn't like, if people broke into my old storage and like stole everything, it wouldn't be covered, even though I had rental insurance on all of my stuff there anyways. So there was like this weird loophole thing that, you know, you have to be really careful about what you're doing with your stuff. And so I just felt better about it being like all with me in a climate controlled environment. Like I have AC in here, and I knew that I would have to kind of do that if I moved to a place that had higher humidity. And so the car worked out. Side note, the car worked out, and I felt really amazing because I was freaking tired. Like I was just bam, 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 doing all the things that I had arranged, and it was like I didn't have to think about it because it was pre-arranged by my previous self when I was thinking about things like a lot better. But like it was just stress-free, and it was just working out in such a nice way. Like the car was great, it was within my budget. My dad had given me the money in order to make the car payment lower, so that like it's still a lot for myself, and I'm like, wow, I have a lot of stuff to pay for now. But it's like it's given me like just immense pleasure to like not be stuck. And it's just like, oh, I'm gonna do like a whole video on how my life has changed from then till now, and like how the little things about my environment I'm finding, and like my that kind of update is probably going to be in the next video because this one's super long. But I wanted to just kind of explain like the whole process of like having the transition of my old life to my new life now, and like what I had to do. So like it was just great to have a car. And so I actually had to take my rental car back. I'd only had it for like 3 hours at that point, and I had to take my rental car back. And I had to Uber back to my, once I took my rental car back after I paid for my car and it was like mine and I got the keys, I drove my rental car back, and I actually returned it, I think like 16 hours early or something, but they didn't give me a refund. And so that's what I mean by like it would have been a really big problem had I like found the car, but I'd already booked my rental car out for like 5 days or something. Like it's just easier to like add more time than it is to have them kind of refund you. And so they didn't even refund me at all, and this whole rental car for like a couple of hours cost me like $200 because I bought all of their insurance and everything because I didn't have insurance because I didn't have a car. So I always do that when I get rental cars, because I don't know if you know this, but if you screw up a rental car, they can come after you for so many of their fees, like the cost of like not being able to rent the car out. It's like it just financially ruins you if you don't add up all these little stupid things, if you don't have a way in which to like have insurance on the car yourself through like maybe your credit card, or maybe you already have pretty good insurance that qualifies for rental insurance with your regular car insurance thing. So I always get like whatever they say because I never want to be financially ruined because of a rental car. But like, so it cost me like a lot of money, and they didn't refund any of the money. So like, you know, whatever, that was a wash, but everything else was going like really great. And so I Ubered back to my car and I drove it away, and I picked up some groceries. I got my keys to my apartment, and the first day that I walked into my apartment, and I had just 2 suitcases that I flew with, and like that's what I moved in here with. And I opened the door, and the people that are in the leasing office that deal with this complex, they had pushed my mattress in that had been delivered early to my apartment, because I got like a notification on my phone that it was delivered like a day before, and I didn't want it like sitting outside my door, like this not expensive mattress, like a $300 mattress, but still, like that would have sucked if I didn't have a place to like sleep on if somebody had stolen it. And I don't really know the environment here really well, if people would just steal stuff. I don't think they would, but now that I'm living here, but I didn't know that. And so I saw my mattress was on the inside of my door, because I'd called them to have them do that for me, and they did, and I was just really happy. Like, I just walked through my apartment, my 2-bedroom apartment with 2 bathrooms. Like, I've never had just like this much space to myself for basically the same price that I was paying in the desert for that one crappy apartment in the luxury hood. So it was just like this moment of like, I can breathe. Like, I did it. Like, all this time that I spent doing this was worth it. So everything is kind of like an uphill battle. Like, once I got settled and I could see like what needed my attention. And so right now, like, I'm just kind of like a little bit frustrated that I can't start my like fun life because my business really suffered, and that's the way that I make my money. And so I have to be a little bit of a recluse, but it's kind of okay and cool because I just have faith that things are gonna work out if I just work hard and just keep grinding, and eventually it will level itself out where I can go explore. And I've worked hard enough where the options and the tools are there now when they weren't previously, and so that part of my life will be ready when my business basically is ready for me to do that. So anyways, I am going to go watch, I'm a little bit late, it's like 1:06. I am gonna go watch my person's live broadcast. I hope that you enjoyed this long chatty vlog about how I moved here and the things I needed to do and like the stuff that I'm kind of dealing with. And next week I think I will talk about more the specific details of what it's like to be here and what I'm finding. Am I happier? All that kind of stuff, and like my goals for right now, and like what my life is looking like an update more on the dating scene and like what I'm doing, and yeah, like the whole weight loss thing, like what my actual like priorities are here and how they changed or whatever from before. So I'll update you guys on that if you're interested. But hopefully you enjoyed this and hopefully learned a little bit about what it's like to move across the country by yourself and the things that I had to do in order to make that kind of work smoothly. And if you have any questions or anything, let me know, and I will see you guys in my next video. I hope you enjoyed.